I swear, I've never felt so ashamed to be in a place. We were all seated, eating jollof rice with fried chicken, sipping Chapman, laughing. Then this old woman, maybe in her late 70s, walked in. Skin wrinkled like a dried leaf, her wrapper faded and slippers flat like paper. She didn't even look up properly. Just stood by the door, holding her small nylon bag, her hands shaking. Nobody called her in. She came by herself. Into a place like Arriva's Lounge, one of the most expensive places in our area. She stood for a while before anyone even noticed her. Then when one of the waitresses saw her, she scrunched up her face like the woman had just brought bad luck into the restaurant. "Madam, this is not the market." "Oh," the waitress snapped. "Go and beg outside." The old woman didn't even talk immediately. She just clasped her hands and said, almost like a whisper, "Please, I don't want to beg. I'm only asking if there is any leftover food. Maybe from someone that didn't finish." The place fell silent for 2 seconds. Then, laughter. The table beside mine, full of young women with nails like claws and long wigs, burst out laughing. One of them, Annabelle, shouted, "Leftover coup? Is this a buka? Who let her in here?" Someone pulled out their phone and started recording. It was like watching someone pull a chair from under a tired old woman, and then laugh while she struggled to stand. She didn't beg. She didn't argue. She just stood there with her eyes low, her hands still folded in front of her. Me, I was frozen. I didn't even know what to do. Until the man sitting across from me stood up. His name was Joshua. I had seen him come in before, always quiet, never loud like the rest of us. He walked straight to the old woman and touched her gently on the back. "Ma, come and sit here," he said. The room went quiet again. This time not from shock, but confusion. Like, what's this guy doing? He led her to his table, sat her down, called the waitress. "Bring 1 plate of whatever she wants. Put water beside it. And bring a takeaway pack too," he said, calm but serious. The same waitress who had chased her now looked uncomfortable. She nodded and rushed off like a rat that saw broom. The old woman kept saying thank you, over and over, but Joshua just smiled. Then he took off a small necklace from around his neck. It wasn't gold. Just a simple leather string with a small wooden pendant on it. He placed it in her hand. "Keep this," he said. "It means someone saw you today." She stared at the necklace like it was ₦1,000,000. I couldn't eat anymore. I just watched. And that was the moment something shifted. The mocking tone in the room melted. People became quiet. Some looked down, ashamed. Annabelle slowly dropped her phone. The laughter had died in everyone's throat. I still don't know who Joshua is. But since that day, the old woman who later told us her name was Mama Abigail comes around sometimes. Not to beg. Just to greet. She ties her wrapper neater now. Even walks a bit taller. And somehow, people greet her with respect. Since that day, people started calling her Mama Abigail. It was strange, how one small moment changed the way we all looked at her. Before, if anyone saw her walking down the street with her nylon bag, they'd look away or cross to the other side. Now, people greeted her with small nods or, "Good afternoon, Ma." Even the owner of Arriva's Lounge, Mr. Remy, heard about what happened. I heard he scolded the staff and put up a new rule. If someone hungry enters here, don't throw them out. Ask questions first. But still, not everybody changed. One afternoon, about a week later, I was walking past the lounge when I saw Mama Abigail again. She was sitting under the mango tree beside the fence, not bothering anybody. Her hands were folded around that same wooden necklace Joshua gave her. She wasn't begging. Just sitting. Maybe resting. Then Arriva, yes, the Arriva, Mr. Remy's daughter who helps him run the place, came out with 2 men in shirts tucked too tight. Bouncers. She pointed at Mama Abigail from afar. "She's back again," I heard her say. "Why can't she stay in her lane? Is this place a shelter?" The two bouncers started walking toward Mama Abigail. My chest tightened. I stood behind a parked car and watched. One of them tapped her shoulder hard. Mama, you can't sit here. Oh. This is private property. She looked up, quietly. I'm not begging. I'm just resting. Please. Go and rest in your house, the other one replied coldly. People are watching. It's bad for business. They didn't hit her. But the way they hovered over her like she was a stray dog made something twist in my stomach. Then I saw Oriva roll her eyes and walk back inside like she had just dealt with a cockroach. I walked up to the tree slowly. I didn't even know what I would say. But Mama Abigail was already standing, dusting her wrapper, quietly. That same look in her eyes again, like the world didn't want her. Before I could speak, she turned to me and said in a small voice, even when you're not begging, they still look at you like you're begging. I didn't know what to reply. So I just walked with her down the road until we reached the junction where she usually sat. I bought 2 bottles of water and a meat pie from the shop nearby and handed them to her. She smiled gently. You're the one that was there that day too, right? In the lounge. I nodded. She nodded slowly too, her eyes soft but tired. I had a house once, she said quietly. A husband. Children. A sewing machine. Life can turn just like that. I didn't ask what happened. I could tell she wasn't ready. But what she said next stayed with me. Young people think we old people are ghosts. Just shadows passing by. But we're not. We remember everything. Even the shame. She touched the necklace again. This, she said, reminds me I wasn't invisible, at least, not that day. The next week, I saw her again. This time, she was sitting outside a small chemist shop, close to the filling station. Same wrapper, same nylon bag on her lap, but she looked weaker. Her lips were dry. I could tell she hadn't eaten that day. I crossed over and greeted her. Mama Abigail. Good afternoon, Ma. She smiled faintly. Ah, my son. You remembered me. We sat together on the wooden bench in silence for a bit. She didn't talk much. She just held the necklace and looked at the road. It was like that small piece of wood was the only thing tying her to this world. After some time, I asked if she'd eaten. She shook her head slowly. I drank water this morning, she said. It carried me till now. I didn't have much on me, but I knew where to get food for cheap. I told her to wait and I rushed down to a small mama put around the corner. Bought rice, beans, and 1 boiled egg. When I brought it back to her, she took the food gently, her hands shaking again. She opened it and just stared for a moment before whispering. You'd think after all these years, hunger wouldn't hurt so much anymore. That line hit me. We sat while she ate. She didn't rush it. She took small bites, like someone trained not to finish food too fast because she didn't know when the next one would come. As she ate, a woman came out of the chemist and looked at her with a raised eyebrow. You're here again? You want to scare my customers away? Mama Abigail looked up slowly. I'm not begging. I'm just sitting. The woman hissed and slammed her shop door. This is what broke me. This woman wasn't causing any trouble. She wasn't asking for money. Just sitting under shade, eating in peace. And yet, people still looked at her like dirt. That was when I decided, I couldn't just sit and watch anymore. I pulled out my phone, snapped a quiet picture of her sitting on the bench with the necklace around her neck, and posted it on Facebook with a caption. This is Mama Abigail. She came to Oriva's lounge one day just to ask for leftover food and was mocked. But a man named Joshua gave her food, respect, and a necklace that changed how some of us see her. She's not mad. She's not a ghost. She's just a woman who has been forgotten. If you see her, greet her. Share what you can. Even if it's just a bottle of water. Because one day, you could be the one sitting on that bench. I didn't expect much. But by that evening, the post had over 300 shares. By the next morning, 1,000. Comments flooded in. People saying things like, "I know this woman. She used to sew clothes for my auntie in Mushin. God, I remember her from church when I was little. How did things get this bad for her? Where is she now? I want to help." That's when something strange happened. Mama Abigail became visible. By the third day, everything changed. A small silver car pulled up in front of the chemist where Mama Abigail usually sat. A woman in a navy blue skirt and flat shoes stepped out. Her name was Ruth. She introduced herself quietly and asked around for Mama Abigail. When someone pointed at the bench under the mango tree, she walked there fast, like she was scared Mama Abigail would disappear. They hugged. And then they cried. I didn't know what was happening at first, but later Ruth explained. She said, "Mama Abigail was my mother's best friend. She used to live with us years ago when her husband died. But we lost contact. Nobody knew where she went after her son passed." That day, Ruth took Mama Abigail to a small guest house, gave her food, clothes, a proper bath. And for the first time since I met her, I saw her without that nylon bag clutched in her lap. She looked lighter, her eyes brighter, her back straighter. But not everyone was happy. At Ariva's lounge, one of the waitresses told me how annoyed Ariva had gotten. "Now everyone's acting like she's a saint," she said, rolling her eyes. "If she was really that important, why did nobody look for her all these years?" I didn't argue. What was the point? Let them say what they wanted. The truth was, something had changed in town. People were watching how they treated others. Maybe not all of them were genuine, but some were. A few students started packing extra food on campus to give to anyone they saw sitting alone on the roadside. One guy even started a small WhatsApp group, "Feed One Today." Joshua. We didn't see him again. He disappeared the same way he came. Quiet, without noise. But Mama Abigail kept his necklace around her neck. It never left her, not even after she bathed or changed clothes. One evening, I went to visit her at Ruth's house. She was sitting in the backyard on a plastic chair, peeling groundnuts. She saw me and smiled. "I heard I'm famous now," she joked. I laughed. "Yes, Ma. A real celebrity." She looked up at the sky and said quietly, "It feels strange, being seen again." Then she looked at me straight in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. "Do you know what's worse than hunger? Feeling like you don't exist." I didn't answer. I just sat with her, helping her peel the groundnuts. That was enough. It was a Sunday afternoon when the knock came on Ruth's door. Ruth thought it was one of her neighbors or maybe someone from church dropping off fruits again for Mama Abigail. But when she opened the door, it was a man, early 30s, beard, neat shirt, eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. He just stood there. "My name is Emmanuel," he said, looking nervous. "I saw a post about Mama Abigail. I think she might be my grandmother. I was sitting in the parlor that day. I came to bring Mama some pap and akara." I heard his voice, so I stood up and came to the door too. Ruth blinked. "Your grandmother?" He nodded quickly. "My dad was her son. But they got separated years ago. My dad died when I was a boy. I don't know much, but I remember her face. I saw the picture you posted. I've been looking for her for years." Ruth called Mama Abigail gently. She came slowly from the backyard, wrapper tied firm around her waist, her necklace still hanging from her neck like always. The moment she saw him, she froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. Emmanuel knelt down right there by the door and placed his head on her feet. She broke. Tears rolled down her face, and she touched his head slowly like she couldn't believe he was real. "My son," she whispered. You're his son." They cried together for a long time. Nobody said anything. Even Ruth sat on the floor beside them, wiping her own eyes. That night, Emmanuel stayed with her. He didn't rush her. He just sat beside her, listening as she told stories about his father, her life, how everything changed after her son died and her health failed. She didn't want to beg. She didn't plan to sleep on benches or wait outside restaurants. Life just pushed her there, bit by bit. And when it did, no one reached out. Until that day in Oriva's lounge. The next week, I helped Emmanuel set up a GoFundMe. I didn't even know how to do those things well, but we tried. He posted the story and the old photo of her holding the food Joshua gave her. In 3 days, people donated almost €3,000. A woman abroad messaged saying she wanted to buy her new clothes. A young makeup artist offered to do her face, just for fun. Even a journalist from a small local blog reached out, asking for an interview. But Mama Abigail didn't care about all that. What she cared about was peace. "Don't let them turn me into a project," she said one evening. "I just want to rest now." We respected that. She still wears the necklace. Every day. She said it reminds her that in a world full of people who look away, one man chose to look at her. And I think that's what changed everything. Not money. Not social media. Kindness. Simple, human kindness. Some people still asked questions. Why didn't she go to a shelter? Why didn't her family find her sooner? Why did she even go to that restaurant? Everyone had opinions, theories, and debates online. But the truth is, nobody really cares about old people until they become a story. Until there's a picture. Until there's tears. Until there's drama. Mama Abigail had lived for years like that. Invisible. She said it's like the world builds walls around you when you get old, especially if you're poor. People stop hearing you. Even when you talk, it feels like your voice doesn't reach anybody. But now, she had people. Ruth, Emmanuel, me, and others from the neighborhood. We'd check in, bring food, sit with her, laugh at her dry jokes. She still said funny things like, "If you eat too fast, the food will forget where it's going." A man who can cook rice without burning it should be feared. We all laughed. But one day, something unexpected happened. Oriva came to Ruth's house. Yes, Oriva. The same one who tried to chase her off. The one who rolled her eyes and called her a nuisance. She came in person. Ruth was suspicious. I was too. We didn't even want to let her in at first. But Mama Abigail said from the chair on the porch, "Let her come. Let's hear what the wind brought today." Oriva stood there, her hands behind her back, awkward. For once, she wasn't wearing makeup or heels. Just jeans and a plain t-shirt. She cleared her throat. "I came to say sorry, Ma," she said softly. "I didn't know. I didn't think. I judged you." Mama Abigail stared at her for a long time. Not angry. Not smiling. Just quiet. Then she said, "If I wore perfume that day, and came in lace and gold, would you have treated me better?" Oriva looked down. "I don't know," she whispered. "Probably." Mama Abigail nodded slowly. "Then you haven't come to say sorry to me. You've come to say sorry to the version of me you now feel bad about." The silence was thick. Then she leaned forward gently and added, "Don't apologize to me. Do better. Next time someone who looks like me walks into your restaurant, don't wait for a Facebook post to remind you they're human." Oriva nodded. She didn't defend herself. She just said, "Thank you," and left. That day, Mama Abigail didn't talk much after she left. She just sat there, holding her necklace. I asked her later if she felt better. She smiled. "I don't want to be anyone's lesson," she said. "I just want to be left with dignity, not pity." And the more I spent time with her, the more I realized, this wasn't just a story. It was a mirror. For all of us. A month passed. Mama Abigail was stronger now. Her cheeks had more color, and her steps weren't as shaky. Ruth helped her get reading glasses, and someone from the Feed One Today WhatsApp group gifted her a small Bible with big letters. She'd sit on the porch every morning, reading it slowly, her finger following the lines. But she still didn't ask for much. Not clothes. Not money. She only ever asked one thing. Just don't forget me. She said it once when we were peeling oranges outside. The sky was grey, and a light breeze was moving the curtain behind her. People forget people like me, she said. They remember the story, not the person. I said, but you're not just a story. She gave a dry smile and replied, no, I'm a warning. I didn't understand what she meant until later. One Thursday afternoon, a woman came to Ruth's compound. She was wearing a white blouse and trousers and carried a small gift bag. She said her name was Adeshua, a nurse. She had seen the viral post about Mama Abigail and had just come from Mushin General Hospital. There was another woman there, she explained, just like Mama Abigail. No family. No visitors. Quiet. Nobody knew where she came from. All she had was a small nylon bag and a headscarf tied too tight. She doesn't talk, Adeshua said. She just stares at the ceiling and says, I didn't think it would end like this. When she showed Mama Abigail the photo, her hand trembled. She's still alive, she whispered. That's patience. We were all shocked. Apparently, they grew up in the same village. Sold vegetables together. Lost touch after Mama Abigail's marriage. That evening, she couldn't sleep. She was always softer than me, she told Ruth. I used to protect her when boys mocked her teeth. I thought she was dead. That night, she barely touched her food. The next day, Ruth took her to the hospital. I couldn't go with them, but Ruth sent me a photo later. In it, 2 old women sat side by side on a hospital bed, holding hands. No smiles. Just quiet recognition. Mama Abigail was still wearing her necklace. Patience had tears in her eyes. That's when it hit me. There are so many like them. We pass them every day. At bus stops. On benches. Near the market. Some are quiet. Some talk to themselves. Some are ignored. Some are mocked. Most are forgotten. Until it's too late. That weekend, I called Joshua. I still had his number from the first day he helped her at the restaurant. He picked after the 3rd ring. Hello. Hi. It's me. From Oriva's lounge. Mama Abigail is doing okay. I just thought you should know. There was silence for a moment. Then he said, I knew she would be. People just need to be seen sometimes. He didn't say much after that. But before he hung up, he added one thing. Don't stop watching. There's always another Mama Abigail. And he was right. 2 weeks after that hospital visit, Ruth suggested something bold. She said, let's organize something small. A kind of community gathering. For older women like Mama Abigail. A day where they don't have to beg, or explain, or be invisible. Just food, music, chairs, and respect. I wasn't sure anyone would come. But we tried. We printed a few posters, simple black and white ones with bold letters. We see you. A community day for our mothers. We posted it at churches, kiosks, roadside stalls. Ruth told her pastor. Emmanuel told some friends from work. I sent it to the WhatsApp group. On the day of the event, we borrowed plastic chairs from the church down the road and rented a canopy. We got small chops, puff-puff, buns, jollof rice in coolers. Someone even brought a Bluetooth speaker for music. We were expecting maybe 10 women. 37 showed up. They came in wrappers and mismatched slippers. Some wore old church hats. One woman used a walking stick with tape wrapped around the handle. Many came holding nylon bags, just like Mama Abigail used to. But they came. And when they saw each other, they lit up. There were tears, hugs, long-forgotten names being called again. Ah, Mama Felicia. Is it you? A beak. God kept you. Oh, Olya Watterson, you're still alive? They danced. Slowly, gently. Some just swayed in their seats, clapping and laughing. And right there, in the middle of it all, sat Mama Abigail, wearing a neatly tied headscarf and a clean blouse someone had donated, her necklace still around her neck. I watched her from afar, quietly. There was a moment she looked up at the crowd and smiled, not a small one, but the kind that reached deep into her eyes. That smile said, This is what I was waiting for." Later that day, she pulled me aside. She said, "You see all of them out there? They've carried things. Real things. Pain, grief, children they buried, husbands who vanished, bodies that ache in silence." I nodded. Then she said something I'll never forget. "We didn't come here to be rescued. We came to be remembered." Since then, we've made it a monthly thing. We call it, We See You. And it's not just about food anymore. It's about honor. About eye contact. About listening to stories you'd never hear unless you sat down and asked. Mama Abigail doesn't come every time now. Her body gets tired. But when she does, she sits in the same spot. And somehow, people naturally gather around her. It's like she became the quiet center of something big. Not loud. Not viral. But steady. Last week, she handed me the necklace. I was confused. She smiled gently. "Keep it," she said. "Not because I'm gone, but because you saw me. And now you'll see others." I held it like it was made of glass. Because in a way it was. The day she gave me the necklace, I didn't understand the weight of it. I thought it was just a keepsake. A thank you. A passing of something small. But the next morning, Ruth called me. Her voice was quiet. "She's not waking up." I didn't believe it at first. I threw on my hoodie, ran down the street. I didn't even brush my teeth. My heart was thumping in my chest, harder with every step. By the time I got to the house, Emmanuel was already there. Ruth was standing by the door with her arms folded tight around herself. She didn't say anything, just moved aside and let me in. Mama Abigail was still on her mattress, lying on her left side like she always did, her wrapper neat, her feet clean, her eyes closed. No pain, no panic, just peace. There was a half-finished page of Psalms by her side. She must have been reading it the night before. And the necklace? Gone. She had passed it on, to me. I sat beside her and didn't say anything. I couldn't. It felt wrong to cry loud. Wrong to shout. She lived most of her last years in silence and calm. I wanted to honor that. After a while, Ruth sat beside me. "She didn't suffer," she whispered. I nodded. "She didn't beg," I added. "She was seen," Ruth said. And that was the truth. The funeral was small. She didn't have much family left. A few distant cousins came from Ijibu when they saw the obituary online. Most of the crowd were strangers turned friends. From the WhatsApp group. From church. From Ariva's lounge. Yes, even some of them came. From We See You. We buried her in a clean white cloth and a purple headscarf, the same one she wore at the last gathering. There were flowers, music, short speeches. But what got everyone silent was when Emmanuel stepped forward. He held up a framed photo of her, sitting under the mango tree, holding her food that day at the restaurant. He said, "This picture was taken the day someone remembered my grandmother. But it's also the day my own heart was convicted. Please, don't wait until someone is too broken, too tired, too forgotten, before you decide to be kind. Be the person who sees them before the world does." Now, the necklace hangs on my wall, above my desk. It's not flashy. Just a piece of worn leather with a wooden pendant. But when I look at it, I remember. That dignity is not bought. That kindness is not noise. That stories like Mama Abigail's are not rare, they're just ignored. And every time I pass someone who looks tired, or dirty, or invisible, I remember her voice. We didn't come here to be rescued. We came to be remembered. 3 months after we buried Mama Abigail, something strange happened. I got a message from an unknown number. The person said they were from a school in Oshodi, a secondary school. One of their teachers had seen the original Facebook post about Mama Abigail and printed it out to use in class. Apparently, the students wouldn't stop talking about her. They called her the woman with the necklace. The message ended with a question. Can you come talk to the students about her? I stared at the message for a long time. Me. Talk. I'm not a speaker. I'm not a writer. I just witnessed something and shared it. But I remembered what Mama Abigail said once when I asked why she told me all those things. Because if I don't speak and you don't listen, then the silence wins. So I said yes. The day I went to that school, I carried the necklace in a small cloth bag. I didn't have a speech written. I just told the truth, step by step. How a hungry old woman walked into a restaurant, how we laughed, how one man showed kindness, and how that small moment changed everything. The hall was packed. JSS 3 to SS 3. Some sat on the floor, others stood at the back. I didn't shout. I didn't preach. I just said, sometimes the person you ignore is the one carrying the biggest story. When I brought out the necklace and held it up, the room went completely silent. You could hear the ceiling fan clicking. I said, this isn't gold. It's not worth money. But it saved someone's dignity. And now, it reminds me to never walk past someone like her again. Afterward, a girl from SS1 came up to me. Her name was Blessing. Tiny voice. She said, my grandma sells vegetables in front of our house. People always shout at her like she's slow or annoying. I think I'm going to walk her to the stall tomorrow, just so people treat her better. I smiled and gave her a quiet nod. That was enough. Later that week, I created a page online. The Necklace Project. Not a big thing. Just a place to share stories of people like Mama Abigail. Forgotten women. Unseen men. Tired souls still carrying dignity with their heads bowed. People started sending stories. A woman in Benin shared about her uncle who sleeps in his car. A guy in Ibadan posted about the old lady who sings hymns at his bus stop. Someone in Port Harcourt wrote about a man who washes taxis with just a sponge and rainwater, never asking for a tip. It grew slowly, quietly, but real. And me. I kept the necklace on my wall. But sometimes, on hard days, I wear it. Not for style. For memory. Because when the world feels loud and fast and selfish, I remember her sitting under the tree, holding that food like it was gold. I remember how people laughed. And how one person changed everything without saying much. Her story still isn't over. Because every time someone is seen, really seen, her story continues. About 6 months after the necklace project started, something unexpected happened. A woman reached out through the page. She didn't start with a greeting. Her message just said, that woman. Mama Abigail. She was my mother. I froze. Read the message again. 3 times. My heart started to race. Her name was Grace. She said she hadn't seen her mother in almost 7 years. They had a huge fight, something to do with her husband. Her mother warned her about him, said he was cheating and squandering Grace's money. Grace didn't want to hear it. She said some harsh things that night. Slammed the door in her mother's face. By the time she wanted to apologize, Mama Abigail had disappeared. No phone. No relatives who knew where she'd gone. She searched hospitals, police stations, shelters. Nothing. When she saw the Facebook post, she almost scrolled past. She said the woman in the photo looked tired, old, too thin. But then she saw the necklace. That thin, gold-plated chain with the locket shaped like a leaf. She whispered, Mama. Then she screamed. She said she cried all night. I met her at a quiet cafe in Suralere. She came with a worn photo album. The first picture she showed me was of Mama Abigail in a wrapper and white blouse, holding baby Grace, smiling with all her teeth. Another picture showed her wearing that exact same necklace. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she asked, "Did she suffer?" I didn't know how to answer. I told her the truth. She was hungry. She was humiliated. But she was strong. She never begged. And before she died, someone showed her kindness. Grace held the photo album to her chest like it could stop her from breaking. She whispered, "I was going to name my daughter after her. But I lost the pregnancy 2 years ago." My throat tightened. There was nothing to say. Before we parted ways, she asked if I still had the necklace. I did. She looked at it for a long time. Then she smiled sadly and said, "Keep it. You saw her. You heard her. I didn't." That moment broke me. A few weeks later, Grace donated to the necklace project in Mama Abigail's name. She said, "Let it help the next forgotten mother. The next woman someone walks past." We used that donation to start something new, Mama Abigail's bench. A shaded wooden bench with her name carved into it, placed outside a small soup kitchen in Yoba. Free meals. Dignified space. No one turned away. And every person who sits on that bench is told her story, told how a woman sat under a mango tree one day, with hunger in her belly but quiet in her soul. We've since built 4 more benches. I hope one day there will be one in every city. Not for pity, but for remembrance. For all the people the world calls trash, just because they're tired or poor or old. Because Mama Abigail wasn't trash. She was grace. She was strength. She was proof that one person's kindness can echo longer than anyone expects. And maybe, just maybe, someone reading this today will become that one person for somebody else. The sun was rising when I sat at Mama Abigail's bench for the first time. I brought akara and pap, not just for myself, but for anyone who came by. A man sat next to me quietly. Then a young woman with a baby strapped to her back. We didn't talk much at first. But then, like magic, the stories started. The woman said she'd slept under the bridge the night before. The man said he was once a banker, until depression swallowed him whole. I listened. I didn't interrupt. Just like Mama Abigail used to sit quietly and listen to the world pass her by under the mango tree. It hit me then. We were never meant to save people like her. We were meant to see them, to dignify them, to remind them and ourselves that humanity doesn't disappear because someone is poor, old, smelly, or broken. It just hides. And it waits for kindness to call it out again. I stood up from the bench that day and touched her name carved into the wood. Mama Abigail. A woman the world forgot. Until it remembered. And now, I'm leaving the necklace on that bench. Not for decoration. Not even as a memorial. But as a reminder. That every person you pass today, whether they're selling bottled water in traffic, or sleeping in a bus stop, or muttering to themselves as they walk, is someone's mother, sister, brother, child. Someone who once danced. Someone who once hoped. Someone who once wore a gold necklace and laughed in the sun. So before you laugh at them, before you whisper, "You smell this one," before you say, "Go and get a job," ask yourself, what if she was just hungry? Rest in peace, Mama Abigail. The world may have laughed at you, but now, the world remembers you. And your story will feed more mouths than hunger ever stole. Amen. Mama Abigail's story teaches us that kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. No matter how poor, old, or tired someone looks, they still deserve dignity and respect. One small act of compassion, like offering food or even just listening, can restore hope in ways we may never fully understand. We should never judge people by their appearance or situation. Behind every face is a story we don't know. Sometimes, all it takes is seeing someone to remind them that they matter. Now it's your turn. Write in the comment section what you learned from this story and your thoughts about Mama Abigail's journey. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. Share it so others can hear Mama Abigail's story. Comment your lessons and thoughts. Subscribe for more real-life stories and African tales. Because the more we share kindness, the more the world remembers people like Mama Abigail.